So Uyobia for the past 5, 6, 7 days who follow social media, one name that you should have come across Yvette Tete or a swimmer why are there Bibina and you'll be a woman we say emu boy is through but on dear was say obeyo swimming. Sa as soon as I pay mini at JJ Ado Cranting and so mention or a captain the woman captain of the woman who does not fear. He's also with me in the studio, and we are talking about the success story of Yvette. But she's here, so I would want for her to tell the story. Yvette, it's good to have you in the studio. JJ, it's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you, sir.
Is your tree anyway good?
I should think so.
You should think so. Yours?
I should think not.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you. You are all over the place for daring to, do what you did.
Right.
What motivated you to do that?
Right. Well, the swim is part of a much larger project called the Agbetsi Living Water expedition.
Okay.
And there is the swimming component, but there was also the component of trying to do research.
Okay.
So we were also collecting water samples and air samples along the whole Volta River and Volta Lake in order to look at the pollution by textiles, by clothing that's entering Ghana from the global north.
Okay. Pollution by textile.
Yes, yes. So basically, I don't know if many of us are not aware that literally millions of garments are entering Ghana every year from places like the UK, from the US, and a lot of us shop at Kantamanto, right?
Yeah.
But and the clothes that are coming to Kantamanto are from the second-hand clothing coming in. But there's only so much any of us can buy, and so unfortunately, a lot of it ends up as waste. So if we go to Old Fadama or we go to Kole Lagoon or even on the beach, you can see T-shirts and just clothing in these huge piles, kind of spoiling the environment.
Okay.
So for what we wanted to do was say, is this a problem in other parts of Ghana, or is it just a problem in Accra?
Okay.
So we went to take a look.
Now, there are several issues that people are concerned about, the girl-child education, and several other projects that people are embarked. But it's interesting you'd want to look at Boni Wewu, second-hand clothing.
Yes.
It's interesting that's where your focus would go to. Why there?
Well, I think that, there are many issues and all of them require attention. And looking at the second-hand clothing is work that the All Foundation has been doing for a number of years. And so they have experience there. And they also have launched a campaign called the Stop Waste Colonialism campaign. And so it's really important for us to be able to support that campaign with research, with information and stories gathered here in Ghana.
So, JJ, expedition.
Yes.
I know what an expedition is, but I want to understand from your point of view as to this particular project. What was the expedition about?
So if you're going to swim from Buipe to Ada on Lake Volta, you need to be backed by some firepower, or else you will drown, or you will die. Yeah. And so I was captain of that system, the firepower that lends, if you like, the sails to her swimming. And that's what she alluded to in the beginning, that the swim was part of a bigger project, and that bigger project involved having a boat on Lake Volta that had a science lab that was completely solar powered. The boat absolutely refused to accept hydrocarbons.
Wow.
And so, we tried so many times. Yeah. And so when she's swimming, there's a boat ahead guiding and navigating. And whenever she needs to take a break, and usually she'll do 8 to 10 kilometers within a 2-hour session.
Wow.
And then she takes a break onto the boat. We try and drop anchor, and then she'll try again. So usually between 10 to 15 kilometers a day was how much she was swimming. Wow. And while she was doing that, there was a team that was handling the comms, the photography and the documentary, picking up water and air samples, studying that under the microscope, sending that to Accra, so all that could be analyzed, because like she told you, we're trying to find out how much in the interior of our water bodies this waste colonialism is happening, so that you can have scientific data to say that, I know we're all concerned about plastic, I know we're all concerned about some other things, but hey, we need to take another look at textile pollution, because that one gets in there, and it's like HIV/AIDS, insidiously. It comes in there, and before you know it, it wipes out the population. This is exactly what textile pollution can do as well. And so I was captaining that boat, which was called The Woman Who Does Not Fear, and it just so coincides. I mean, she's a woman, so obviously there's a connection between she as a swimmer and the firepower that was giving what she was doing the weight it needed from a scientific and navigation point of view.
Give us a sense of the crew you worked with. How many people were involved in this project?
All in all, well, we first had to do a risk assessment, and there was about 6 of us just to find out. And here's the interesting story. When I first met Yvette, okay, she just told me that, oh, I'm thinking about swimming from Buipe to Ada. And to be honest, I was trying to get inside her mind to find out, are you crazy? You could die. Okay. Yeah. But then when she said she was going to do it, I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do a risk assessment just to be sure what danger we were putting ourselves in. And once we did that and we were satisfied that none of us would die, then the main expedition came. So there were on the boat at every point, there were 4 of us, a science officer, a comms officer, a documentarian, me as the captain, and she as the swimmer. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Were you not afraid? This is the Volta Lake we're talking about. So many stories of people who have drowned and all that. Were you not afraid?
No, I wasn't afraid.
Okay.
But you know, I think one of the big messages of this expedition is that fear is a natural thing, but we don't want it to prevent us from having new or important experiences. Okay. So you can feel fear, but we want to try and move through that fear. Things might feel impossible, things might feel really terrifying, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. And so for me, it was possible for me not to feel fear because I had such a good team and I felt supported. All I needed to focus on was, okay, I need to wake up and swim for a long time, and then, you know, that's it. And there's always a boat. There was a main boat there, and there was also a colleague in a kayak and a smaller boat next to me. So yeah, I always felt that in case of anything, I'd be supported.
Were you at any point in time, you know, thinking of giving up? Did you ever consider giving up at some point?
No. In fact, funny enough, on the last day, the chiefs of Ada were very, very generous and let us know that they were going to welcome us at the end of the expedition. But the swimming took much longer than we expected. And at one point, we were trying to decide, okay, should we just go ahead on the boat? And I said, no, I've swum so far. I'm going to swim till the end. And so, yeah, it was like, no, I went there for a job that I did.
Now, let's talk about some of the samples, you know, you're able to pick. Did they give you some inclination as to whether this is an Accra problem or indeed it's everywhere?
So usually we take the water samples and then we run the water through a filter system. Okay. And then the filter system, like a thin circular material, is then put under the microscope. And then photographs are taken in ultraviolet light and in normal light. And then that is then sent to a team of analysts who then would have to actually physically count the microfiber elements of pollution within that little film. And you're doing it literally every 10 or 15 kilometers, you're sampling that. So you're getting a lot of samples. You're doing that for air as well. Then it is after you do the microfiber count that we can then accurately be able to tell per every 15 kilometers of lake and river water how much microfiber pollution there is. And that will take time, probably the next 3 or 4 months, in order to be able to get that final report out there. We already know that when it comes to the Korle and all those places, the microfiber count per millimeter of water is extremely high, which isn't surprising because Cantamanto and all the textile areas are close by. But once we have done that for all this lake, we will be able to get the scientific evidence to support any claims we make about just how much pollution is making their way into our water bodies.
Well, our time is fast spent. Yvette, I'll give you the final bite. Everyone is watching this morning, and those who are listening are also listening. All we focused on was the fact that you've been able to swim. But the objective in terms of the pollution of our water bodies by these textiles. The camera is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for the local audience, for everyone here in Ghana, I think the main thing that we can do is just be really connected to our environment and be really intentional and thoughtful about the actions that we take when it comes to the products we're consuming. You know, we're thinking about how many clothes are we buying, what are we doing with our waste, what's happening with plastic, for example. There's lots of different things we can do here, but the main thing is to live consciously and thoughtfully and be connected to the environment.
JJ, I'm grateful you joined me this morning. Yvette, I'm grateful you joined me this morning. And I'm hoping that we will have an extensive conversation moving forward. Maybe 3-4 months when the reports are out, the analysis are out, then we can know whether this is a capital city problem or outskirts problem.